Good afternoon, everyone. You're at the Summit of Future 2025, and a hearty welcome to the second half of the Future Education Summit under the umbrella of our Mega Summit, proudly hosted by Jain University. This, as all of you know, is venue 1, and we have another venue, venue number 2, within the same Kinfra premises. We also have venue 3, 4, 5, and 6 inside the Jain University campus. So many exciting programs happening on parallel lines. So please do keep an eye on your schedule to understand which ones that you want to attend, which ones you do not want to miss. So yeah, keep a track of all of that. Now, are we ready for the future? Are we ready for the future in this afternoon on day 1? This is track 1. Track 1 is education, and we expect a lot more enthusiasm and eagerness from all of you. Visibly, all of you are students, so we request a lot more participation from you as well in this afternoon session. We know afternoon sessions are renowned for inducing slumber, so that's why we thought we have to have 2 firebrand men joining us on stage to make some sparks fly on the stage. So we'll make sure that you don't sleep at all. And deservedly so, because the person who's joining on stage first is the host of this conversation, who is, in his own words, like you, a lifelong student. He is Advocate Dr. Kriss Venugopal. He's a lawyer. He is a PhD in media psychology. A lot of hats have been donned, and he is going to be in conversation with a celebrated man on stage. So first, let me bring on stage the host of this conversation, Advocate Dr. Kriss Venugopal. Welcome, sir. When he starts speaking, you will know that his voice is a renowned voice. He has lent his voice to a lot of films, advertisements, so a renowned media personality. Please take a seat, sir. And now, to speak to us in this fireside chat, coming on stage, is a man whose career, if I were to describe it in a full fashion, I'd take a whole hour or more. He is one of India's most celebrated, most distinguished former diplomats, and has represented the country. I was just taking a look through the countries that's been mentioned in his profile, and I realized there's Europe, there's North America, there's Africa. He's been a prized man for his negotiation skills as well as his eloquence. So the right, apt person to speak to us today. And after his career as an IFS officer ended, he continued with his public service, and he continued to be a thought leader and educationist in the capacity of the vice chairman and executive head of the Kerala State Higher Education Council. So he is renowned for being a diplomat. He is also a higher education expert, a combination that's really rare to come by. Very proud to present to you Shri T.P. Sreenivasan. Welcome on stage, sir. He's a prolific writer and speaker. A lot of wisdom is going to be shared on this stage today. Over to you, Dr. Kriss.
Thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure to be here in front of you. First, the topic itself made me think, is just the 45 minutes enough to discuss this topic, how the Indian educational system influences or affects the international education framework. Let me just, for you students, let me just take you a little back to, say, 400 to 500 AD, or till the 12th century. That was a time when 2 of the world's best universities existed, and people from all around the world traveled down to India to learn. I'm talking about the Nalanda and Takshashila universities, where life knowledge was imparted. Now, what happened to that tradition, where the land itself got its name for being the light that dispels darkness of ignorance? Somewhere down the lane, the English educational system came the Macaulay reforms, everything started changing. And those on the serious note, let me just start the conversation. Tell me about the time you had, that fun you had at University College. Let's start with that most beautiful time where uh, we try to remember. I don't think the new generation will ever have that pleasure of talking about the best days in college. Your time, I've heard, and I want to start the conversation with the best time you had at in University College Trivandrum.
Yes, absolutely. I think now when I look at University College, I feel very disappointed. I'm not nostalgic at all because what has happened to University College is really sad. But of that apart, I was educated in government institutions all my life, from school to college. And this was probably one of the best government institutions for years. We had celebrated 150th anniversary. Dr. Radhakrishnan came in the 100th anniversary, etc. So it's a matter of paradise lost that I think of University College. But it has its tradition, and that is one place where the teachers were the heroes and heroines. These days nobody talks about the teachers, but there you say Hriday Kumari, so many names that we repeat even today. They all disappeared, but so it was very teacher-oriented. I suppose that is what had happened to Indian education, Gurukula Vidyabhyasam. So, and Sri Krishna serving his guru, and so that tradition we carried on till this time of Nalanda and Takshashila. And people used to come from abroad. We are now talking of an education hub in Kerala, but there is nobody to join the hub because these days we are all leaving. We are all going abroad. So it's a very peculiar situation that the tide has really turned when people used to come from other countries to India. And now we are all fleeing in Kerala because of the unbalanced education, employment situation. And I must say I predicted it about 15 years ago when I was the vice chairman of the Kerala State Higher Education Council. And I said at that time that if these reforms are not implemented, I had a number of things to say, but I'm not going into those. Not implemented, our children will vote with their feet. In other words, they will run away because they will not like the situation here. And that's exactly that has happened. One day, I flagged off 500 students from one institution in 1 month to one country, which is Canada. So, and that is, imagine the number of people who are going. I'm not concerned that they are going because we have enough brain power. I don't believe in the brain drain idea. But I believe that we have enough brain and we can overflow. That's okay. And Indians, wherever they go, they'll remain Indian. You can take them out of India, but India you cannot take out of them, they say. So it will not be bad in that sense. Many of them will bring back technology, money, education. But the sad part of present education in Kerala is that they are going because there is no sense of security about education. If I do this or I will do that, then I'll get a job, security. And that thing is not done at all because it is commercialized completely in the sense that, you have to pay cash every time you want to get a job. And so that insecurity is very much there.
Do you think the insecurity is because of the consumeristic nature of education now? Like you pay, we will teach you. Is that the problem? Because as you said, stalwarts like Hriday Kumari ma'am or Narendra Prasad sir at University College, the people who taught as stalwarts, I don't think the students here would raise their hand if I asked them, do you want to be a teacher or a professor or a lecturer?
Very few will say so. Yeah.
So is it the consumerism which is affected, or is there any other reason why people don't want to be teachers or professors?
Well, you mentioned Macaulay. He's the one who ruined everything for us. So the British destroyed many things. And they turned us all into British clerks in their institution. So a limit was put on the education that you can have. Of course, the Maharaja of Travancore was very aware of that. And particularly the Regent Rani, who ruled for a few years. She was very conscious of it, and therefore she kept saying that education should all be arranged by the government, and the financing should be entirely government because we have the responsibility. But that unfortunately has been interpreted wrongly now. Because today, if you want to have proper education, you need a lot of investment. And that investment doesn't come from the government. So the United Nations says 9 is mine. There's a formula for children. They said it means 9% of GDP must go to us for education. It's a UNESCO accepted slogan, but it remains a slogan. If you look at Kerala's input into education, it's not even 3%.
Probably they misspelled it as a slogan. They put it down. Coming to another aspect of the global influence of the Indian education, when we had Nalanda and Takshashila, like we are proud about it still, though it died off in the 12th century. Are we looking at the equivalence exams? Like any degree from India, you go to another country, you'll have to prove that you know that subject.
No, that's the sad part of it.
Yeah. So
why nobody
is it
comes
that?
here is because they think that your education is not adequate enough to find a living. And not only that, if you are a medical doctor going to the United States, first thing is you have to take an examination or English language. All these are tested.
Starting from the TOEFL or the equivalence exams or the USMLE, different medical licensing examinations or equivalence exams have been put to place so that we prove that we know the subject.
Yeah, but that becomes a qualification for you to go abroad. So people need to do these tests, which means they don't value the education they have obtained in India. And therefore that gives us a kind of complex. When you
Does
go.
India have anything like that for people coming from outside? Prove it.
Well, we don't have, but we, as a kind of tit for tat, we don't sometimes recognize.
Some
For
degrees.
example, you know, FRCS is not recognized in India out of sheer spite. We say we don't recognize. Go and take an examination. That things we have imposed in certain senses. But how many FRCS people come for jobs in India?
Right.
The opposite is true. And therefore, there is a total imbalance there. And ironically, when I saw the topic of our discussion, I was saying, what model can we offer to the world? It is the other way around. We are now trying to emulate whatever happens. We don't think about Takshashila, we think of Oxford or Cambridge. And with great respect, we consider that. So the roles have been reversed. And therefore, the idea of internationalization of education has also had some kind of a negative meaning. So when I tried to reform education in Kerala, they said that, oh, this man is a CIA agent. So, his brain has been washed by the Americans. And to the extent that because we are pointing out the benefits of the system and involvement and the curriculum and so on. So it has become a reverse. Now we are looking towards the world for models. You missed a very interesting talk this morning by former Tom Joes. And he concluded asking, where is education going in Kerala? And the answer was nowhere, and he sat down. So, you know, he didn't suggest any solutions. But the way he interpreted the situation or presented the situation was masterly. And of course, very funny too, and I was amused by that. But he finally didn't say, do this, except that he said that evidence-based education.
Okay.
That was one important thing that he pointed out. But he didn't say how to implement it. So the situation is really bad. And the situation is related to the geopolitical situation also. I always think of geopolitics when I think about any issue, because that is my training. And look at the world today, look at 2024. Probably the most militarized conflict year in history, 2024. You know that there are 59 wars being fought at this particular moment in different parts of the world. We know about Russia, Ukraine,
Right.
and but 59 wars listed by the Stockholm Institute of War Studies. And Ethiopia, Azerbaijan, unthinkable. In Ethiopia, there is a prime minister who won a Nobel Prize for Peace, who is fighting a war against his own people. So the irony of it. And here is a permanent member of the Security Council fighting a war against another member of the United Nations. So the world is totally upside down. And
Right.
with Mr.
Now,
Donald
that's
Trump being
also another aspect of education. Probably we are educated to fight, to procure. When Mother Teresa, she said, if you want peace, be prepared for war. She only said, be prepared for war. But our educational system probably taught us to go and fight so that they need peace in their space. So is there anything fundamentally wrong in the total education system, what we are looking at? Is there anything to be,
Yes,
some
I
basic
think so.
needs?
I think so. It's very competitive in any way, and the values are not emphasized. So it is a matter of struggling for something, on getting something, and rather than sharing something. So that is a problem. And with Donald Trump being in power already in the 5 days, he has done enough damage to geopolitics and international relations. But one good thing about him is that he says, I'm against war. That is the only good point in his whole speech. He didn't talk about cooperation with the rest of the world. In fact, he didn't speak about foreign policy at all. He said, I'll change this, I'll change that, and I already started changing. So with this uncertainty of 2024, now we are entering a period of even greater uncertainty. So where is the time for us to focus on education or build a new society? And that's also, so that's the danger that we are seeing today. Why in the 20th century wars finished very quickly? Anything that happened, any issue you take, as soon as a war starts, the UN is able to say this should be the end. And those come out. Even during the height of the Cold War, there were resolutions passed by the Security Council in which both the sides agreed when in conflict situations. But now there does not seem to be an end at all. And the reason is the United Nations is paralyzed completely. So in the UN, there is a scheme of things. First preventive diplomacy, then if a war starts, a ceasefire, then peacekeeping operations in between, then negotiations, then peace building, and then rebuilding the country. The scheme is there. But now what has happened is because of the topsy-turvy situation where veto-wielding powers are fighting wars, UN cannot do anything. Even in the pandemic, the Security Council could not meet even once because the Chinese refused. They vetoed everything.
Right.
So we have to see the situation in education in the context of the worsening international situation. That's the point I make.
There is a digital impact because during the COVID times, the total learning changed to a mobile phone, and probably, forgive me if I'm wrong, many students use that as a kind of an alibi to stay away from studies. Like looking at the mobile, they will be playing videos and all that, or whatever the social media addiction. And probably in the name of studying, they took
No,
to a
but
different
we
habit.
tend to criticize technology because of certain way it is used. I remember when I was in higher education, I was very much fascinated by this massive, the kind of education, the companies like, so many companies started Khan Institute. So we are moving away from classroom education to technology.
Right.
Massive open online courses.
Gadget-based.
And I advocated it in a big way, but most people said that is wrong to do because later it will have its own problems. Mm-hmm. And therefore we didn't move forward. But when the pandemic came, we found that we had no technology to use massive open online courses.
Right.
And a child got on top of a tree to get connection and fell and died. I mean, that's a very cruel experience. And that was because during that period when massive open and online courses were not accepted by us, because we said traditional one is better. And therefore, when the crisis came, we were not prepared for it.
Right.
And that is so, in a way, it was good that we waited, but then by waiting, we were left behind.
Right.
And then, of course, technology has given us so much. We cannot just ignore it.
No,
we are
I'm
all
saying the flip
dependent
side also works. Coming back to the point where the NEP 2020, it specifies till by the time 2030, we would have the foreign university collaboration up to, say, 20 universities. And by 2047, NEP says, we will have 40. So the numbers seem to be so less, number of international universities having a collaboration with the Indian universities, or Indian universities having a collaboration with the international universities. What stops you from thinking big? Because the NEP says by 2047 we'll have...
It's too late. You need to have much more foreign collaboration now.
Yeah. So I was like wondering why NEP is saying by 2030 we'll have 20 universities.
They're just being realistic, because they don't think that this will happen, because what will bring them to India? People used to say, for anything good or bad, India is the best example. And therefore, universities come here not necessarily to teach us anything, but to learn from our terrible experiences. Like all the diseases in the world are here. It's a research laboratory, ready-made. So they don't come basically to learn anything or teach us anything, but to use the evils of India, as it were, as a model to study. So, of course, there has been a bill in Parliament for foreign universities to come for about 8 or 10 years, and it has not been passed, because in Parliament there are so many people who are against foreign universities coming here. Some of them because of vested interests, their own investment will not work. So I do not think that we'll be able to move very fast in foreign universities coming. Land is an issue, the problem of various kinds. The fees will be high. But Mr. Modi has relaxed all that. That bill which is in the Parliament, he has changed it. Originally they said, if you make any profit, you can't take it back. You must invest it here. Then all kinds of restrictions, scholarships should be given. So that did not attract foreign universities too much. But many of them in anticipation bought land in Mumbai and Delhi and so on. But still, we have now private universities in India doing very well. But which foreign university is here? They are not here at all. In fact, Indian universities are now going to Dubai, setting up universities there. So it is all topsy-turvy at the moment. But certainly we have a lot to offer in terms of spirituality and balanced life and balance in business and education. All this we have as concepts. But I would agree with Tom Jones that we are not going anywhere.
In which case, there was a time when Russia was very strong, then it fell, but still those who completed BDS or who wanted to do MDS or maybe kind of dentistry was popular with Russia. You go there, learn Russian, give the Russian exam, and then you learn MDS or specialize in dentistry and come back. In case of medicine, we had countries like Philippines where we travel down there to study and get the medical degree and come back. Or for the flying, again, Philippines was, when compared to India, Philippines was not doing so well. But still, we had countries much below a status what we had in terms of education or quality of life. They actually took away a lot of the share of education what India could have offered.
Yes,
Why that happened?
20,000 Malayalis in Ukraine when the war started. Nobody knew where they had gone. Because they would go for medical education anywhere. That was the situation. But the USSR, the Soviet situation was very interesting, because they had a Lumumba University, you remember, and that was meant for foreign students. Free education. KPS Menon gives you a letter, you get admission.
So can't we replicate that? Because Russia was falling when such education was being offered and foreign exchange was being...
But it benefited. But all of them have landed up in America. All the Indians who went to Soviet Union studied medicine, and then there is nothing to do. So because you don't get jobs there.
Right.
And they land up in the United States, they take those tests, and I know many Lumumba scholars, flourishing practitioners of medicine in the United States. So human beings wise, I think we have the capacity. Whichever way we go, you succeed. But when we come back home, we tend to get relaxed or something happens to us.
No, the question was, can't we take up the model of a falling Russia using their universities to teach and getting foreign currency. Or maybe a country like Philippines, where even the vehicle transport, they had difficulty on a ground level. Still, they have students going for MBBS, or many other countries where...
To other countries.
Yeah, so are we not fit enough to take up that particular idea of offering what others cannot offer? And can't we bring a change that other people from other countries again come back to India?
Coming here, those facilities that we have to build. Because I tried to bring one group of American students to Kerala University for a semester. You cannot imagine the problems that I had. Because their style of living is different. They come with shorts and t-shirt into the class and put their feet up on the desk. Within 30 days, I sent them all back because they couldn't just adjust to our education system. While in India, when we go there, we adjust ourselves very well to the situation.
Yeah, we look totally alien if we go properly dressed, and we slowly start adapting to that. But they won't adapt to our system. Like
difficult. I found it very difficult to have them here. We cleared all the docks in the campus, thinking that they should not see all these evils of India. And when the bus stopped and an American girl jumped out, and she ran to hug a stray dog on the street. And then we organized nice Western food. And they saw the idli and dosha and they said, we will have that. So it's all India is still a fancy and not a place for education or learning. That I have not learned.
Take the specific, let's move from the Indian scenario to the Kerala scenario. There was a time when Godavarma Raja, he actually took steps for the District Tourism Promotion Council and started attracting tourism, and did make a lot of changes in different parts of Kerala to make it tourist friendly. In the case of education, yes, we have a lot of hubs and training centers and everything what is possible. Is there a possibility of even attracting students from outside Kerala to Kerala, which is not happening? Instead, we have private colleges from Tamil Nadu or Karnataka taking away our students also. Why is the outflow more than the inflow, though we have the infrastructure?
No, they don't come for modern sciences into India. Those who come are for Bharatanatyam or Mohiniyattam or Kalaripayattu and things like that. They don't come for physics, chemistry or biology because they don't think that we know enough. And so it's a very restricted market that we are able to get. How to build it, we printed new brochures and there was no impact at all. Nobody came. Only those who come are the scholarship holders. Government of India gives scholarships to foreign students. The ICCR, basically Africans, Malaysians, etc. They come. Then Iranians come because they can't go anywhere else. And so it's a very small foreign students component in India. And we are now talking about a hub of education. Where are the students? Where are they coming? So we need to reorient our education and manage to sell it to the West. That we
so
are
it
not
is at
capable.
the selling point where we have fallen. We are not able to properly sell what we have.
No.
Though we have the expertise, we are not able to sell. When we have specified the case of Iran, we had a senior in engineering college who was from Iran, who came and he wouldn't write the final exam. Because the moment he writes, he won't be a student, he will have to go back. Now, his children have a Russian card, and his wife is actually an English teacher, and having a proper family life, and both the Iranian kids, they speak Malayalam so well, Arman and Akash.
No, there are several people like that, I know.
And
they
won't
don't get
write
the
the
visa
exam.
extended, and therefore they are illegal migrants in a sense.
Actually, he's a student visa holder because he has not written the final exam.
That's because he doesn't want to go back, that's why.
So, why is it that we are not able to take any steps towards that? Like you take an educational visa, you actually can even get a ration card. To that extent, we have gone down. So,
but the Iranian system, there is also a problem of oppression, and and that's why they like to move away from the country if possible, and they find us quite liberal and so on. So that Iranian is different, and the African students, of course, come and exploit the situation. They do a lot of corruption and so on. So that also is not very happy experience.
One of the very prominent models, we talked about models, the Daltonian school model. I think India has only 2 schools which have the Daltonian model where there is no specific class. Every time, say 3 months, the IQ is assessed and he's moved to a next level where his IQ would be increased through learning, whatever he likes to learn. I think we have just 2 schools, of which one got closed about 4 or 5 years back and one more is left in India. Why is it that such concepts are not talked about? Why is it that people don't know about, education is about building your IQ or building your EQ?
No, like for example, the Montessori system, which is universally accepted. How many Montessori schools do we have in India? Because the teaching system is very different and people think it was some kind of a elitist. So we have not been able to adopt. The English language came because they imposed it on us. But we did not pick and choose the systems that may be more suitable to us from abroad. That's the problem. But we never oriented our education towards selling anything, you know. So it was more a question of survival, job hunting, and so on. So I don't know what the solution is, but what happens in all these cases, some solution appears. You know, the famous Micawber in the David Copperfield. You know, he says something will turn up.
Something will turn up. One aspect when I was a student, probably about 25 years back, still a student, I mean, initial days of my college, one of my acquaintances, he said, why do you want a degree? You go to Calcutta, you pay this much money, you get a degree certificate, then live your life.
You can get a PhD.
Yeah. So these kind of shocking revelations are probably, this happens online right now.
Yeah.
From Calcutta, it moved to online. Now, what do we do
No, you
about
don't have
this?
to go to Canada, go to Sri Lanka. 40,000 rupees, you get a PhD.
No, I said Calcutta because
Calcutta.
those days medicine, all the quacks, had the Calcutta degree and it was written ABBS Calcutta.
Like Oxford, Oxon.
So, is there any way that such kind of things can be restricted? Because year 2000 was the problem where Osmania University was defamed, saying that a lot of students who did not study at all had their degree from Osmania University, which is a very good university. I've been to the library, such good facilities. But still, the name is tarnished because false degrees were issued by some few people who were not probably for the university, but for making money. So how do we tackle such problems inside the educational system, like the Calcutta MBBS or the Osmania University case or the online aspects which is happening right now?
No, we keep talking about the national education policy, and it's an excellent document, and it was written by a rocket scientist, not by you and me. You know, Kasturi Rangan was asked to write it because they thought educationists will not be able to handle this. Anyway, whatever it is, as a report, if you take it as a whole, it is a revolution that he's thinking of. But we don't see it like that, because most people look at the education policy and pick and choose like a menu card. Okay, I'll take the 4-year degree. I'll take this one, this specialization. I'll take this, multidisciplinary. But that doesn't solve any problem. You have to start looking at it as a liberating factor. When I took over, Ummanchandi told me this. He said, I want the education to be liberated. And I found that nobody needed any liberation. They didn't want to liberate me even so. They tried to capture me. So, and that's the kind of spirit that we have sometimes, and unfortunate.
Before I open up the floor for questions, one more thing. During my time, or probably before that, during your time, college politics did play a role to foster the kids together. People got united because of that. Today it has changed into a very ugly politics and a kind of a nightmare which happens in government colleges, so-called government colleges. Is there anything in our system which creates this kind of a malice or a kind of a stigma towards government colleges because of the politics?
No, then you have to start by defining politics. If it is a matter of engaging in politics in the sense that you exercise your right and your groups and then voting, etc., etc., but that is not what is happening. The politicization is such that it leads to conflicts rather than any other. So many of our chief ministers were politicians in the schools, Oman Chandi, for instance, and many of them. I myself engaged in politics. And that was a very good training field. After all, in future you are going to live in a democracy. And so the rules of the game might be useful. But what happened was they were all turned into mercenaries of other parties or politics, and it has gone completely haywire. And that is why now people are saying ban politics in the campus. I'm not in favor of that. We must have a
During in the 90s, Medical College Trivandrum had a party called Student Against Politics in the Campus. That was a party which fought the elections.
That is the irony of the situation.
True. I open up the session to the students. If you have questions, please raise your hand so that we can have Sreenivasan. Yes. Can we have the mic forwarded to him, please? Yes.
Isn't somebody going to give you a mic?
Yes, we'll get that done. Just give us a moment.
Sure.
Yes.
Good.
Okay. I'm Ambad Vijaykumar, currently an emeritus professor in Cochin University. I took PhD in 1985. At that time, advisor of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, Sam Pitroda, told that India is going to have 1,500 universities. And after about 25 years, most of them will close down. So I don't know what happened to that. Then we started having private universities, and we have now, thanks to TPS sir, when he was the vice chairman of the Higher Education Council, started the autonomous colleges. And now you are threatening us with the word foreign universities coming to India. But finally, at the bottom of the line, what is happening to the education field? Is higher education coming down or going up?
Well, I don't know what I suggested, and I was not alone in this. There are several former vice chancellors and so on. We had a very clear path, and if anyone wants to embrace the changes, it is all there, in our reports. But it was totally politicized. Nobody wanted Oman Chandi to succeed, to bring about changes in education. And that is why they opposed everything that I tried to do. And therefore it's so politicized that now you know that they are embracing the same ideas that we gave. So simply because they feel that they must get the credit. But all this could have been accomplished 15 years ago. And now it's become more difficult because of this outflow, people going abroad. And so it's very difficult. There's no incentive to create new institutions because the solution is just to go away. I asked a parent, he said he was going to take a loan of 30 lakhs and send somebody to Canada. So I said, why so much? Can't they get educated here? He said, yes. And he had a very, very clever formula. He said he will do his BSc, he will do his MSc, he will do his PhD, and then I have to find 50 lakhs to find him a job. So now it is cheaper, only 20 lakhs I'm spending. Very clever, isn't it? So he says, 20 lakhs if I sell my property and send him to Canada, he will get a salary, he will get something, he'll send me some money, etc., etc. But if he studies here, at the end I have to find another 50 lakhs to get a job. And that is where the crux is.
Is it also the tag that foreign educated?
Well, that I don't know whether it is positive or negative at the moment.
I leave it to the public anyway. Any more questions? Yes, please.
We encourage students also to confidently stand up and pose your questions if you have any.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
The 10-20 years back, our education, higher education standard are very high. After their degree course or PG course, they were able to do any work. But now the people, now the students, they have just passed out a degree or PG. They are not able to do any work. It's actually the quality of the education is, I think, it is less, or any suggestions for that, sir?
No, the problem is that most of our degrees are not oriented towards work by hand. So an engineer hardly touches, I mean, at least during my time, I remember, a machine or an equipment or anything like that. It's all textbookish knowledge. And so situation had become such that the diploma engineer who studied to do something with the hand, the diploma engineers get better jobs than regular engineers, because the regular engineers don't handle machines or equipment. And so it was a reverse. And so now they say 100% employment is in this section where they are educated only up to class 5. So if you are just educated up to class 5, you can get a job immediately. But if you are in masters, you don't get any job because they don't use their hands. And so when we go abroad, they are willing to use their hands and they become prosperous. But when they come back here, they would rather have an investment company or something and not engineering. So these are all, as I said, a topsy-turvy kind of situation.
Yeah. With your permission, before we have the next question, did I see a raised hand from behind? I think I saw one. Yeah, any questions? Yeah, when it comes to the education time, when I was doing my engineering, we had a teacher by name Radhakrishnan sir. So he actually came to the class and we were being taught civil engineering. And he asked, what do you call a brick in Malayalam?
What?
Brick
Brick.
in Malayalam.
He doesn't know.
And about 60% of the students, they were just blinking because they knew it as brick. Then he said, Ishtiga, Chudugatta, Chudugalle, Vettigalle. He said, you will never be able to build a house without knowing how to communicate, how to use a brick or how to place a brick. That a person
I must tell
with
you an
diploma,
experience
hands-on
of
experience.
finding a solution. We tried. Many engineering colleges closed down. So some of them came to me and said, can we do something in which we can use these buildings? We have the equipment, machinery, etc. So we found out a way to train engineers on machines and lathes, etc., which they normally don't do. So we developed a very good course, a 1-year course, and we said any engineer who takes this job will get minimum 25,000 rupees salary, guaranteed. All this worked out, we spent a lot of money, and when we advertised, only one application. Because they said they are going to turn us into workers. They are going to demote us, as it were.
So probably that answer to that question is that those who study don't want to work. That's why nobody is able to work.
They want to study not to work. That's the point.
So education for working is slowly changing to education how not to work. I think we have 6 more minutes. Yes, any more questions from the audience side?
Or solutions by students must suggest
Sir,
solutions.
sorry to interrupt. To you, sir, we'll just wait for 10 seconds to see if any student wants to raise their hand and ask a question, just to give them a bit of space. Anybody? No question is wrong or right. Yes, please.
Hi, sir. My name is Aishwarya. I have a question. So I'm working in a corporate, and currently even the corporates are encouraging all the, let's say, all the graduates or who've joined for work to continue their education in the online way. So now we have online educations. We can have degrees or PGs, everything in online mode as well. So I think many people who complete their degree, they enter up in a corporate and then they continue their education in an online way. So do you think going forward the education industry is completely moving into an online way, and it has its own disadvantages, right? Like will not be able to, the classroom kind of education is completely different from an online way. So do you think in Kerala, maybe down the line, 10 years or something, the education industry will almost move into an online platform and less people will actually join a physical campus and get that experience? So what do you think, sir?
Yeah, I think online education has its advantages, but more disadvantages. But you cannot reverse that trend. Because today what happens is you are working in a firm in the United States, you hardly go to the office. Working from home has become very, not only fashionable, but practical. So online education does not do any harm for your own education, and you can reach any university almost free. You can get online education. So that's a trend we cannot change. We have to have a balanced way in which many people who do also classes inside an institution are trained better. But reversing this and saying that no, there will be no online education, not only will be practical, but also against the trend in the world.
Thank you, sir.
Probably the next most attractive course would be a 21-day program to show that you are working from home.
Right.
An online course. It'll be of high demand, I'm sure. Any more questions? We have another 3 more minutes.
A gentleman here had a question. I
Yes,
cut
please.
him short to give an opportunity to students. So, yeah.
Sir, good evening. We are talking about global education opportunities and all. Right now, requirements of skilled manpower is very high globally. But still, abroad aspirants from Kerala, they are not focusing on additional skills. We find people from Punjab, they usually take some additional skills along with their academic qualification. But sorry to say, Kerala is hesitant to skill education still. Moreover, there is a huge gap between the required knowledge and acquired knowledge. Means skill gap is there. In every industry, we can find the same. What's your thought and suggestions on that? Thank you.
Well, skilling is given very much importance basically since we think that some of us should do all our work at home yourself. But given the salary structure of people whom you can hire, there is no attraction in that. So why should I go and struggle with a little nail on my wall and call somebody and get it done, you know? And that is there. So the vocational aspect we have introduced is not simply to take a job like that, but you should be useful around the house. You know, in America, you don't get somebody to wash your, walls, or nobody will be available. You'll have to pay him more. So people develop their own skills at home. You know, there are these shops where you can get kits to do anything. And that we are not used to. And because of our salary structure, there is no attraction for somebody to learn a skill for regular use. You want it for a job. And then you don't want to do that job. So you keep avoiding it. So the skill development, unless it is linked to profession and fixed income, that will not attract people. There's a huge skill development program which we are developing. But how many of them have really from a proper education to a skill development to alter your position? That does not happen.
The sad plight and the positive sides, yes, both sides of the coin. We have a long way to go. That's what I understand on this fireside chat. Take the year 2000, when everyone was scared about the Y2K. A lot of people were going on bench, where computer engineers and electronics engineers, they were going to US and they were on the bench, and the bench period was nothing but taking photostats. I really wish people understand the value of education and stand up to what they have learned, because as per the age-old Sangam literature, Thiruvalluvar, he had written 2 lines about education. Karka kasudara katravai katravin nirka adarkataga. Whatever you learn to the best and live up to your education. If we can start envisioning or seeing the dreams of understanding the value of education, probably tomorrow is going to be better. Your parting notes, sir.
Thank you.
Your parting notes?
Well, we saw the situation is difficult. That's the conclusion we came to. And no answers, no ready-made answers. We have to, like for example, the reforms I suggested 15 years ago are not relevant anymore. So you have to find new ways, because the situation has changed. Global situation has changed. Artificial intelligence is going to take over. So all this, therefore, there is a certain amount of bafflement as to what you do today. But everybody is trying to find some way in which proper education is given. And much depends on the ability of the students to accept what is available and then adjust it for their better living. And that must be possible. So I'm optimistic because we are hardworking people in India. And so all these problems may not overwhelm us. And maybe technology, if we can master artificial intelligence and so on, maybe we'll overcome these problems in a way. So be optimistic.
With more questions, I'm sure these questions will lead you to the right path, because more than answers, we need questions, the right questions to ask what is going to happen tomorrow. On that note, I would like to thank you, everyone. I'm Advocate Dr. Kriss Venugopal, and with me is TP Sreenivasan, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Iyer. It has been a
Thank
delightful
you for that
conversation.
fascinating conversation here. As they say, there's more to learning than learning. Sometimes we have to unlearn and relearn. Thank you for those insights shared. And to present these men with a token of our appreciation, I'd like to bring back on stage our Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor J. Lata. I introduced them as firebrand men, but it was a calm, soothing conversation full of wisdom. Oh, that's great. Shri Kriss Venugopal, Managing Director of Liberta, who moderated the conversation, and Shri TP Sreenivasan. I request the three of you to please step up. Oh.
So I'm so happy for this moment.
Precious moment indeed.
Student and boss on both sides.
And you are still in the right place.
Thank you, sir.
Ma'am, we request you to step up and have a proper group photograph taken to capture this moment. It's a precious day, doesn't come by very often. Thank you. Thank you once again.